Pittsburgh Steeler fans, welcome back to another episode of the Scho Bro Show. I am the little bro Scho, Dave Schofield, co-editor of BehindTheSteelCurtain.com. And with me is the Big Bro Scho, my big brother, Rich. Rich, how you doing?
In the infamous words of one Ric Flair, woo!
There we go. Yeah.
Celebrate that Steeler win.
Exactly. It's one of these things right now going on. This is strange. This show should not be happening this close to the game. This is really weird to try to transition from one to the next because it's so fresh. But speaking of fresh, I don't want to keep him waiting. We have someone who's going to join us tonight because I started this really early in the off season, trying to every couple weeks bring in one of the writers from Behind the Steel Curtain. We had Kevin Smith, who actually came on 2 different times, and now he's he joined Bad for the the pregame show. I don't want to screw this up. This past week did a great job there. We had Jeffrey Benedict on. Now he's a regular. We had Michael Beck on before he was the deputy editor, so now he has his own shows. We had Flip Fisher on when he was still with Behind the Steel Curtain, and now never had Tony Defio on this show simply because he has his own show. So the only person that we hadn't had come on yet, we're finally bringing on. So tonight I'm going to bring him up here, and we want to welcome one of the other writers for BehindTheSteelCurtain.com, Shannon White. Shannon, do you hear us?
Yes.
How are you doing this evening?
Doing awesome after last night.
Oh, yeah. All right. You know exactly how it goes.
Yeah, we are.
We are all. I tell you what, I'll be honest. I didn't get to sleep until after 4 a.m. because not only was I working on stuff with the site, I was I did the post-game show. I got distracted by the other football game being on. I was trying to do other things. I couldn't focus on the stuff that I needed to do. And I just couldn't wind down until I have articles that haven't even been published yet that I wrote last night because I was just ready to go. So super excited after those 260 days off. Super excited because I got to bring this up. Super excited because yesterday I got to be a part of something special. Yesterday was the debut in the written word of Big Bro Scho on BehindTheSteelCurtain.com as Rich is taking care of the knee-jerk reactions for us with each game. Rich, how was that for you? How was that article?
Oh, it was fun to do because I'm sitting there doing it during the game. Actually, what was funny, at one point we had all 4 of us sitting there watching the game, and I think it was the second Juju touchdown.
Mm-hmm.
He scored. I just yelled, Juju. Oh my goodness. My wife and my daughter freaked out. They're like, not so loud. And I'm just like, then go watch in the other room. Because I'm going to be loud.
Yeah. Well, I'm kind of the opposite with my family, that if they're too loud where I can't hear the game, they've got to go. How about you, Shannon? What's your viewing experience?
I usually just have immediate family. Nobody else needs to be around. I get a little bit excited. I scream at the screen like they can hear me.
I think we're all guilty of that one. I've never been more. I think the one that I've gone the most crazy in my basement was the Christmas Day game against the Ravens a few years ago. I mean, I couldn't sit down. I am jumping up and down. I am screaming. I am flailing. People are. I mean, my son was actually sitting over in the corner putting together Legos that he got for Christmas, and he was like, he knew I was going crazy. I couldn't sit down. It was just, that's what I've been missing. And last night, I'm going to ask you both about this because Rich brought up a specific play, and that was, before we get into a little bit more about Shannon here, he brought up that last Juju touchdown. It was kind of one of those sealing the deal things.
The nail in the coffin.
And then you realize what happened to Zach Banner on that play.
Yeah.
Did it you not even realize what was going on at first? Or 2, did it kind of take a little bit away from that? We'll start with Shannon. What was your kind of experience with that play? Did you even realize what was going on until later on?
No, I was just so excited about the touchdown, and then like to watch Juju and his celebration. So he's laying down there at the pylon, okay, and then he gets AV to come over and kneel down there, and we had no idea that Banner was hurt until after the commercial. And then when it come back, you see the replay and you see his knee give out. And it was a non-contact situation. And anytime you see that, it's a bad omen.
Yeah. I mean, kind of like those non-contact knee injuries, I kind of got the same feeling I got last year in the Seattle game when I saw Ben throw that pass when he grabbed his elbow. That I knew there was something bad, something going on. Rich, what was your reaction with that play? Were you? I know you screamed. You already told us that part.
Well, I screamed, but I agree with Shannon. There was enough time in between the two that you almost didn't even realize that he was hurt on the touchdown. Like, I celebrated the touchdown.
Yeah.
And then it was like, a little bit later, suddenly it's like, oh, shoot, Zach Banner's hurt.
Yeah. Well, I was actually finishing up the article on James Conner officially being ruled, they didn't say for the longest time what the deal was with him with his injury. And I was finishing up that article to put out and missed that Wisniewski was hurt. And when I heard them reference that, as soon after that touchdown during the commercial break, I rewound in order to try to catch it all again. Because when you got to write something during the game, you can't focus as much on what they're saying, and had to catch all that. Then when I saw that with Banner, I was like, oh no, I knew it. I knew it right away. But let's not. He is out. He did put something on his Twitter within the last 90 minutes. He recorded a video that he is having surgery on Friday. So that means his season is going to be done. And so it was, the worst that everyone feared, that they were still hoping maybe not. Yeah, it happened. So we jumped into the game so fast, I didn't get a chance to really say stuff about Shannon. Shannon, for the most part, at Behind the Steel Curtain, you're responsible for a lot of the commentary that we have. You and Tony are our main commentary guys. But you're doing something else new this season that should be coming out I don't know. I can't remember. I don't think it came out today. I think it's coming out tomorrow. What do you have? What article are you doing for us this year that's new for you?
I'm going to be doing the stock report. And so I'll be talking about who's trending up and who's trending down, and who's treading water.
Yeah.
And, so it's kind of new to have a scheduled piece each week, and but I'm trying to become more involved in that side. And I'm used to Brian doing the knee jerk reaction. And when I first read it, I seen it was Rick. I was like, oh man, that's this is going to be different.
Yeah.
But he kept it. It was very in the same. It reminded me a lot of Brian's, and that he did use exactly what he was thinking at that second. Even I enjoyed the parts talking about his son said this or said that. I like when you get the family involved, because kids say the darndest things, right? So, but
yeah,
I love Kyle likening Bennie Snell to having the energy like chasing the toddler around. He's on a sugar rush.
Yeah,
he's just bouncing all over the place like a little kid on a sugar rush. I was like that's in the article, definitely.
Yeah. So I like that article, and honestly, I've written that article for Brian before. I did it for him once last year when he was in the woods and didn't know what his signal was going to be, where he had a Boy Scout obligation that he was doing. And my goal was to just kind of do it like he did. Just, you're putting your thoughts out there. And the best part about that knee-jerk reactions article is it basically, every time I read it, I feel like I am going through the emotions of the game in a compressed version. Like, I remember feeling that. I remember feeling that. I remember feeling that. And you kind of relive your emotions going through it like that. So,
The one thing I did leave out that I really thought about putting in there, it wasn't anything I said out loud in front of the family, but I had certain thoughts about our a certain offensive coordinator after our first series.
Yeah, did you? If you read Jeff Hartman's winners and losers article,
I actually put something down and said, "No, I can't.
Better not."
Yeah,
I know exactly what you're talking about there. So let's kind of dive into this. The way we usually do the format of this show, although it's got a different name, I wanted to keep a similar format to how it was last year in season, where the first half of the show we talk about the week that was, and the second half of the show we talk about the week that's coming up. Now, because we are so close to the game that just happened, we might go a little bit over this time. If we do, that's okay. But what I kind of wanted to focus on one thing in particular, and the name of the show is The Steelers Hit the Ground Running in 2020. So, or something to that nature. So what I wanted to focus on first is how, when the Steelers came out, it was very frustrating with Coach Fichtner because early on it was run, pass. Like you knew exactly what they were going to do. You could tell what the plays kind of
beyond that.
Plays were coming.
It was run up the middle, pass.
Yeah. James Conner was not very effective running the football. It really wasn't until he was spelled, even though he was still running. But when Bennie Snell came in a little bit of a spell, he busted a little bit. But so early on, the fact that the Steelers were running so much was like, But then they got it going. They really got it going. So before we talk about them getting going, what was your initial reaction? I'm going to start with Shannon to the first 3 and out of the game, and it seemed like that the Steelers were just kind of a little bit ho-hum on offense. What were you thinking when that first started going?
Well, it kind of reminded me of the past year, in that it was so predictable. I expected Ben to have rust. Coming back from the surgery and he would be nervous till he leaned into one real good and realized his arm wasn't going to fall off. But the way the line is constructed, they were built mainly when Bell was here and to protect Ben. So I think a lot of times that if they open the game throwing, it opens up the run later because they're not a power blocking line. They can't clear space. If you watch when they fire off the ball, it's a stalemate. They don't get any push, and maybe Dotson will change that. I think they're wanting to change it, but with the personnel they have right now, and Fowler is better on the outside. I think at tackle at this point, he's still technique wise. I didn't see him get a lot of push last night either, and so they really didn't get anything going right off. And I was anxious to see Ben throw, and once he did, he was a little bit erratic, but his arm looked really live, and that's a good thing, coming back from that injury, and then he started to get his rhythm as the game went on.
So now, Rich, I'm going to ask you a slightly different question. What did you think of Ben Roethlisberger's first drop back where he decided to throw the ball to James Conner, which you brought up in the live chat last night
I did.
with the post-game show, that he actually threw it backwards, and because it hit the ground was considered a fumble.
He threw it over Connor's head backwards. It was the same as if he turned to do a toss and threw it past him.
Yeah.
It's classified a fumble.
Yeah. So technically his first drop back was a fumble.
Not even a pass.
Yeah.
It was a fumble. It was technically a fumble recovered by Connor. I had a couple thoughts here. My first was, gee whiz, is our line going to even bother to try to block? This is not going to be a good game if this is how we're going to block. And then it was like, oh, Ben, that was terrible decision. All right, who's doing that? Who's got the ESPN?
Not me. It's not I'm not the ESPN.
It's me.
Okay. I was just like, wait a minute.
All right, it's Shannon. I was okay. I was waiting for the breaking news.
That was the point in time that first series happened, and I was having flashbacks to the first game of last year and how that went. And I was just like, no, we not against the Giants.
Yeah.
No. Yeah.
Yeah, I know what you mean, and we're going to get to the whole point of what we're going to focus on with some stuff going with the run game. But this is too big of a question to not ask. So I'm going to ask Shannon, and I'm going to ask Rich. The question is: at what point in the game last night, Monday night, did you say to yourself, "There's Ben. That's the Ben that I was looking for"? What did you think, Shannon?
Well, the pass to Claypool. That's Ben. He loves to if he's moving like that, dog, he likes to look downfield for the big play. It was a great play by Claypool. I mean, that we've been hearing all camp about this athleticism and contested catches, and he looked like the real deal. But I really started to feel it when they went to the 2-minute offense. He got in, calling his plays. He felt comfortable. You could tell he wasn't nervous anymore. The jitters were gone. And he was just focusing on getting them in scoring position. And that's when I said, okay, he's back. He made one throw in that drive where he really laid into one to Ebron. And he had one deep out route also that he put it right on. I can't remember who he threw it to now. But, it showed that he was in the flow of the game and he wasn't any nerves or jitters at that point. Of course, they scored, so that was awesome.
Yeah. Rick, you agree with that? Or
mine was definitely the at the end of the first half, and actually it was in my knee-jerk reaction article. Okay, the Steelers received that punt from the Giants with 1:32 left in the half and all 3 timeouts. And I wrote down, we get it back, 1:30 to go. Is this where we're going to see some of that Ben magic? Okay. And actually Kyle brought up, he's like, well, not just 1:32, they've got all 3 timeouts. He's like, we can do this.
Yeah.
And when Ben got to just operating at that slightly up tempo, he's calling the plays. And he's spreading the ball around to all his different receivers, and we're biting off, 10, 14, 15 yards a play. And next thing you know, I'm like, we're in field goal range. We're going to score and have the lead at the half. And then the play to Washington and
Grandpa Strong, as Ike Taylor said.
That's right. Grandpa Strong gets his way into the end zone, and I was just like, holy cow. At that point, I was like, once Ben got through that series, I knew he was comfortable.
Yeah. To me, it was earlier than that. When I first started to say, okay, here we go, was 3rd and 7 on their second drive, looking to be another 3 and out, and he hits Juju for the 11-yard gain. I was like, that's what Ben needed. Now here we go. So then what happened on the very next play? Connor for 1 yard. Then the next play was incomplete. So here we are, 3rd and 9, and boom, Claypool, 28 yards. That's when you're like, all right, I think this is it. That's when I got my confidence.
But see, that's the difference. See, you said, I think this is it.
Yeah.
But you asked, when did I know?
When did you know?
I knew after the execution of that 2-minute drill.
Well,
I thought the pass to Claypool was beautiful because he threw that ball where only his guy had a chance to get it, and Claypool made the play.
And he had the confidence in the rookie.
Correct. That throw and catch was a vintage Ben type of play. But I knew that Ben was back and he was in the groove from that 2-minute drill. He was playing well before that, but once he gets through that 2-minute drill, I had all the confidence in the world going into the second half.
All right. Well, before I lose it, I want to bring up where we have a super chat. I'm not going to try to say the whole name because I'll mess it up in a bad way. I'll just say what. Okay. puts $4.99 in the tip jar that says this defense is one of the fastest front sevens ever. Reminds me of that 0-2 Tampa D, but the Steelers have more playmakers. We are going to get to that defense shortly. As soon as I bring up the number that I think was really key, 119. Shannon, you know what number I'm talking about with the 119?
Was that Snell's rushing yards?
That was Snell's rushing yards because the Steelers are 1 for 1. One game, one 100-yard rusher. They only had one 100-yard rusher all last season.
Yep.
One game in which they had a 100-yard rusher. So far, they've only played one game in 2020, and they have a 100-yard rusher. So that, to me, they struggled early. Connor was it, but once Snell got going, and once Ben got those, the pass to Juju, the pass to Claypool, I think kind of what really helped then get the running game going, and you've got to start somewhere. And it was those passes, I think, that really started going. What's up, Rich?
We're talking about that run game not starting off very quick. Did you notice some things? Because I noticed some things during the game of the running game early. Okay. I talked about the runs up the middle. And at first we were handing off the ball and running left behind Filer and Big Al. The running game picked up later in the first half when we started running the ball to the right.
Yeah.
Which is what is going to hurt so much about losing Zach Banner.
Well,
when they started running behind Banner, that's when the yardage started to pick up. And believe it or not, then later in the game, we were able to go back and run left because then they didn't know what we were doing. But at first, all we were doing was running up the middle and left.
Why did the Steelers run left a lot? You want to know why?
I think they were trying to get behind Filer.
Well, yeah, but what else do they usually do? They pull to Castro. They pull him. Right. So you get the pulling all-pro guard and go in that way, and it makes for some good plays.
Sure.
But I liked how the Steelers got the running game going. I mean, he only had 19 carries. There was only 3 running backs all weekend for the NFL that went over 100 yards. You had –
I know who one of them was.
Whatever his name is, that the first-round running back taken by the Chiefs on Thursday night. And then you had Derrick Henry, the second Monday night game. There was no 100-yard rushers on Sunday. No 100-yard rushers on Sunday. They were
Thursday. But Henry had what, 30 carries?
Something like that. I had that up here for a second.
It was a ton of carries to get there.
It was 31 carries for 116 yards. So it's not even like he had that impressive of an average. It was 3.7. They just gave him the ball enough to get him there. So that's a really good point, Shannon. So what do you think was more important with Snell's yards? The fact that he got the 100 or that he did it on less than 20 carries?
Well, it was a total shock. I mean, I knew he'd lost weight. I don't know how much and really come in condition, but he looked so much quicker and had a burst that he didn't have last year. He always runs hard and runs low. But last night, he was getting around the end and would make guys miss even, not just run over people.
Yeah.
And so I thought that per carry average was very impressive, that burst he showed last night.
Yeah, I felt like he was successful running what I would call off tackle. It's not that they were running the stretch play, but you were running not right up in the middle. But the other thing that I still can't remember, I should have asked if it was Kevin or Jeffrey that brought this up in a film, that if the offensive line isn't getting a lot of push, Snell's the kind of guy that looks for the gaps and the defenders and finds the gap that doesn't have the defender and goes into it. Is more of the style of the way he runs and the way they were blocking. It was just working for him last night. Rich, what your overall thoughts on Bennie Snell football?
Well, first of all, if Lance is out there listening, I don't think we can call him Benny No Jets anymore.
Yeah. I've been saying that all last year.
I
was all upset about people that were down on Benny.
I know.
I thought he was fine.
Let me tell you what it reminded me of, the difference in him running last year and the difference in him running this year. Okay. He came in, he dropped a little bit of the weight, and we got a little more burst, and he took off. Do you remember one Mr. But they could get robbed between his
Mr.
rookie
L,
and
if Shannon doesn't know who that is Mr. L Bell, if you know what I mean.
Okay.
That was his nickname on our podcast because Yeah, because of the incident.
So
Uh,
he
the difference in him.
right.
You
He
need
made that big jump the second year after he said, I decided to trim down.
It's
It
the
gave me
extra
just a
half
little more
step.
speed, and it made a big difference. And I think we're kind of seeing the same thing in Bennie Snell.
Can you agree with that, Shannon?
Yeah, Connor did the same thing after his rookie year.
Actually, you're right. Same thing there. It was just, I think guys come in, a lot of running backs come in and they spend that first year and they realize that although they were putting on a little more weight in college and that was okay because it would help. Yeah, they would run over guys and things like that. That what they really need to succeed in the NFL is that extra half a step.
Yeah, you're right. And honestly, wouldn't be shocked to see that from one Anthony McFarland Jr., who was not active. I'll bring that up here a little bit later. I do have another super chat I got to bring up. $1.99 from Nathaniel Zarate. He says, love the show. Do you think Al gets an extension? The answer to that is no. He's not getting an extension because this is the last year of his contract, and the Steelers don't negotiate during the season. So the only time he's going to get a contract would be after the season is over. So it wouldn't be an extension. It would be a new deal. So just to clarify that part of it. So it would be anything until after the season's over. The Steelers don't do contracts during the season. I don't know if Shannon can remember this or Rich, what year it was when the Steelers fell apart because they did deals during the season and guys that got deals versus guys didn't get deals and kind of the locker room and they fell apart late in the season. It was in the 90s.
I don't remember what year it was. Yeah.
It was, I think you're right. I think it was in the 90s, but I don't remember what year that was. But I do remember then that it really disrupted the locker room and they're like, yeah, we're not doing that anymore.
Yeah.
I think what will happen with Big Al is Big Al will decide first, does he still want to play?
Mm-hmm.
He's got to decide, does he still want to play? And then he's got to decide for himself what kind of money he wants to play for. And does that match up with still being a Steeler?
Yeah.
I'm not sure Big Al wants to go play for anybody else.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I don't know that. I think it's going to be a question of does he want to keep playing?
If he wants to keep playing and we can get a team-friendly deal from him, then why wouldn't you? So
I think he wants to retire a Steeler. He's proven that certain things are more important to him than the money. Especially he should be pretty comfortable at this point. I think he would take a team-friendly deal because he might retire in a year or two, take something and make sure he can go out of Steeler. And I think he's still got a year or two left. I really do.
Yeah, I think it's going to come down to how this year goes. Really, yep. I mean, for him individually, I really do.
Yep.
I like to say he was the third oldest Steeler on the team. That's not true anymore. He's now the fourth because of the signing of Dustin Colquitt, who is up there. We're getting close to the break. We'll see how much the discussion goes into it. You know what? I don't want to jump into because when I say they got it, got hit the ground running, it wasn't just the offense. It also had to do with the defense.
Yep.
And rather than rush through this because it's so fresh in our mind, we're going to go ahead and take the break. We're going to go ahead and end show 1 and head to show 2. And we're going to do the rush defense. And then we're going to roll into some stuff with next week because it's so fresh that haven't really got too much of a chance to dive into the Broncos here anyway. So for those of you watching here on YouTube, don't go anywhere. We'll be back in just a few seconds. For those of you listening on our audio platforms, just part 2 is going to be right there for you. You can click right on it and head into that show, and we'll be back with you in just a moment. And we are back with part 2 of the Scho Bro Show. I am Dave Schofield, co-editor of BehindTheSteelCurtain.com. With me, as always, is my big brother, Rich, who I can now say is a writer at BehindTheSteelCurtain.com, thanks to his article yesterday, and longtime writer sitting in with us tonight, Shannon White, finally getting on here with the podcast for us, getting all our staff writers on the podcasts in
No,
2020.
you're not done yet. You're not done yet.
What's that?
You're not done with getting all the writers on your podcast.
Staff writers.
Staff.
Oh,
writers.
we got it. What? Like we got to get Tony on here? Well, technically,
No.
Bad's never been on the show either.
No,
So,
no. You forgot the other new guy.
staff writers.
Oh,
Writers.
come on. We got it.
They're different. You know, Shannon's got I can't even think of the right word right now. You know, he's got deadlines he's got to meet now, don't you, Shannon?
Really?
So, but no, we do also want to mention Wes, who has been on Brian's show before.
Yep.
He's been on Brian's show with him just before the draft. That Wes did the grades for us. But we're talking Steelers. We're talking about the running game. We were talking about the Bennie Snell, and not just running well, but running effectively, you know, that 5.7 yards per carry. Yeah, he had the fumble. Juju bailed him out. Let's just forget about that. Don't let that happen again. You know,
you get
one screw up and you have it.
4 Giants and Juju comes up with that.
Oh, I know that. I couldn't. I thought for sure that was a turnover. But yeah, what was interesting, before we jump into the defense, I was really not in the right mood going into this game. I was already frustrated with the Steelers because they screwed up their inactive list. Mike Tomlin had to admit to it today when I was so happy someone asked him the question as to why the Steelers had 6 players on their inactive list when they only needed to have 5. They went into this game with 47 players and they were allowed 48. And bottom line is they just told too many guys they weren't playing. And they didn't. There was some questions with the rules.
They forgot that Castro was out already.
Probably. I mean, who knows? All I know is that at least they owned up to it. I have that article on BehindTheSteelCurtain.com if you wanted to go check that out. And I did offer my services if they need someone to keep track of their numbers for them. I'd have no problem doing that. But I'm like, as much as I've read that part of the new CBA, trust me, I knew exactly how it needed to work. But I was already frustrated with them. Then the streak continues without the offense stepping foot on the field. Yeah. That the Steelers are now up to 24 straight games with at least 1 turnover. And you couldn't even put it on the offense. The offense didn't turn the ball over at all, because Juju bailed out Bennie Snell, and they kept rolling.
And Connor bailed out Ben, technically.
Technically. But the other thing was, after that fumble, I was like, oh, here we go. Here's where Barkley gets going. Not only did he not get going after that fumble, he didn't get going all night. What do you guys have to think? And I'll have a stat that I have to throw out here later because Ryan O'Toole asked it in the Hangover that was on earlier tonight, which is already available in audio for those of you looking for it. He asked a question that I got to answer here in a little bit. But what did you think of the Steelers' ability to completely take Saquon Barkley out of the game plan and have him have a near historic lack of rushing game? What do you think, Shannon?
Oh, it was a great game plan. They attacked the line. They run blitzed. They sent extra people every time to make sure to contain him. I wrote in my article that's posted tomorrow that Barkley looked under his bed and in his closet for Dupree last night because he'll haunt his dreams. Because every time, as soon as he got the snap, Dupree was in his face. And I mean, I understand that a lot of times he was unblocked, but you still got to go in and make the play. And he made him pay for it all night. That was the main thing I was worried about was Barkley, and I was worried about Jones, making first down with his legs, which on that long drive he did, I think, twice. He got Danny Jones got first downs scrambling. And I was more worried about that than I was him throwing the ball. And so I thought they had a really good game plan on defense. And the main thing was to shut Barkley down.
Yeah, that was the one thing that I said the Steelers could do. The only player that really I was concerned about being able to take over the game and beat the Steelers was Saquon Barkley. Rich, do you see that? I was frustrated with some of the passing defense, but then come to find out that it's because they were kind of leaving themselves a little bit thin in an effort to sell out to make sure Barkley couldn't get going. Is that what you were seeing as well?
Well, yeah, kind of what I was seeing. I was thinking our whole game plan kind of reminded me of this third coach up north that really mumbles around, where his whole plan is to take the best player out. Yeah. It really reminded me. Yeah, it really reminded me of what something that Belichick likes to do. And if he feels there's a player on the other team that they would like to totally take out of the game, that's what they do. So we made the decision, we're going to take him out of the game. Now, I was frustrated with the passing yards at the beginning of the game, but I knew we were going to give up some passing yards. One, because we were going to focus on Barkley, but two, we were also not wanting to play into something that was supposed to be Daniel Jones' strength. Okay? Last year, Daniel Jones put up better numbers versus man defense than he did against zone defense. So we were basically, rushing our main four, sometimes send a blitz, sometimes send a blitzer, and it was as much a run blitz sometimes as a pass blitz. But we were playing a pretty soft cover two behind it.
Mm-hmm. And I saw a decent bit of cover three in there as well.
There was cover three as well. So we were not playing. Our secondary was really not playing to our strength of our secondary last night.
Well, what they were doing was they were trying to expose Jones's weakness,
and actually in trying to expose his coverage, trying to expose his weakness, and looking at some of his tendencies from last year is actually the reason we gave up the first touchdown.
Yeah.
Okay. Jones during this game and a lot last year always look for that tight end typically coming across the center of the field. Mm-hmm. Tight end, sometimes a slot receiver. If you notice on that first touchdown that the Giants had, Minka jumped that route, and in doing so, abandoned the deep middle help that Nelson was expecting.
Yeah.
And that's why that pass was able to be completed towards the center of the field. We tried to take advantage. You know what? Daniel Jones really got the best of us on that play.
Here's the thing. You've got to remember this. They're like, oh, well, the Steelers are, so much continuity that'll play to their advantage. But you know what else it does? I got to thinking. It gives the other team film. Yeah. It gives the other team something to study and something to prepare for. And that's what the Steelers were trying to do. But there was so much unknown with a new head coach, young quarterback, new offensive coordinator, new complete coaching staff for them. But they knew what the Steelers could do, and they knew how fast that pass rush was. So they were quick. They had a lot of quick releases. I thought Daniel Jones played well. I do.
Yeah, he made the kind of jump in his second year that I think that, in that first game, he showed some things that I think the Giants were going to be really happy with.
Yes, I was going to say they should take some good things out of this game. But at the same time, they've really got to be worried about that rushing game. What basically the Steelers took the same approach as what so many teams took against them last year after Ben was out. They were like, we're just going to shut down your running game and not let you run. And we're going to make you have to move the ball by throwing it. And we're going to come after you quickly, and you're going to have to throw quick. And Jones made much more of a jump than he showed from last year. And I think he did a good job. But man, this is what I want to say about Saquon Barkley. He had 15 rushing attempts for 6 yards. And here's something that people don't realize. His longest run of the night was exactly what we were talking about with Ben Roethlisberger and James Conner on Ben's first pass. It wasn't even a rush. It was that Jones went to throw him the ball, but Barkley somehow he had stepped up and Barkley was behind him. Yep. So when he threw him the ball, it was a backward pass, and then he ran and gained 7 yards on it, and it was his longest rush of the night. If that play goes down as a pass and not a rush, he has -1 yards rushing. Now, I got to bring this up here because he asked, and I got to answer it. I know because I want to get back and ask Shannon something. This was only, since the 1970 merger, this was only the third time that a player rushed for 15 or more yards, and they had just also happened to be 15
more
yards.
attempts.
Yeah, not 50 more yards. 15 attempts, and they rushed for 6 yards or less. Only the third time since 1970. I didn't even bother going before then. And so it was Saquon Barkley. The other 2 times were in the same year, 2 weeks apart. And that was in 1998 when first in week 14, Emmitt Smith had 15 carries against the New Orleans Saints, and he only had 6 yards. Same as what Barkley had. And then 2 weeks later, for the Dolphins, it was Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, not the basketball player. He had 5. This was week 16 against Denver. He had 15 rushes for 5 yards. So that's it to get that many attempts and have that few yards.
Well, somebody had one of the comments in one of the stories on the site when I was reading today. Someone commented, they said, you realize that works out to about just a little over 14 inches per rush.
Yeah. But I mean, how many of those were for no gain? I mean, most of them, most of them, a lot of losses in there. Shannon, what did the Steelers do? Did they just come? Did they have anything that was that spectacular, or do you think they just came out with a fire, knowing they were attacking the run?
I think the front seven. Well, you have Tuitt and Hayward, and then I don't know if I'm saying his name right. Lulu, is that how you say it?
Alu, it's Alu. I don't know if it's Alu or Alu. I've said
Alu. He played excellent. Tying up blockers.
Yes, he did.
But with the way
he was in the backfield a lot.
Yeah, he had a couple of tackles for losses, I think. But with the speed of the linebackers, it's one thing I've said before. Bush plays sideline to sideline. He's taking up the mantle of Shazier. And the fact that he could do it all. He was on Barkley all night long. Barkley couldn't, he caught 5 passes or 6, but there was more than that Bush had great coverage on him and shut him down. But then you take Dupree and Watt with their athleticism, and they cover, Dupree's making plays on the other side of the field. Barkley couldn't get away from him when he wanted to. And even when they brought in Adaney and Highsmith, those guys, they really, you've seen them, you noticed them. They were in there making plays for 10, 11 snaps during the game. So the athleticism is what I think really caused the Giants offense to struggle so much.
Yeah, when I saw what the defensive front was doing for the Steelers, it reminded me of when I was coaching high school football and the one coach that I worked with when we were when I was first starting out, that I was learning underneath him, coaching offensive line and defensive line. We were working on defensive line, and there was a phrase that he used to say all the time, and it was, take him back from whence he came. That's what he would tell the defenders to do. And that's what the Steelers were doing with those offensive linemen. They were coming this way. You were moving them in the opposite direction. They took him back from whence he came. And they were just getting, I talked about it on the post-game show. It's that line of scrimmage. Which way is it surging? Is it surging? Are you giving or are you moving? And on defense, they were moving. When Barkley was getting to the quote unquote line of scrimmage, meaning where all the big guys are smashed together, it was already 2 to 3 yards in the backfield. Yeah. So he had to get through that and fall forward for 3 yards just to get no gain. Rich, is that what you were basically seeing the whole time? Or?
Yeah, I really was. It was, we dominated the line of scrimmage defensively.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it's what it really took, and it's something that you don't want to see the Steelers' offensive line keep doing that. But just all in all, any last thoughts on the game as a whole? We'll start with Shannon.
I was just excited about obviously being back and looking like Ben, but I was really excited to see the young guys, the second-year guys that made some substantial plays throughout the game. They made their presence felt, and you see the potential there. And if you could keep a rotation and keep these superstar players fresh, and also hopefully healthy, I'm really excited about that. I think that they have some impressive depth there. That and hopefully they're going to use it this year.
Rich, overall impressions, anything?
Overall impression was real positive. I think if we could have got the offense started a little earlier, we would have had no issues getting over that 30-point cap that we often talk about. Not that we were even close to needing it. And we'll probably have a lot of games this year where we don't need it. But I was very happy to see the offense come out and really get established. The defense, hanging in there. We didn't even bring up, the 19-play drive by the Giants that ended in 0 points because of Cam Hayward's interception.
Which should have never happened because they had him a third and super long and should have even got a safety. And they let him march down the field. Sorry. I
know. Now you're sounding like my knee-jerk reaction stuff.
Yeah.
So be careful there.
Yep.
So really overall, just pretty happy with how the game went. I got a lot of what I expected defensively, what we were hoping to see. And offensively, it was a little slower start than I would have liked, but I knew we were going to have a lot of jitters, especially even when you're your 38-year-old quarterback that's a veteran. When he's coming out and you knew he was going to still be jittery, you knew some of those younger guys were going to kind of feel that same kind of pressure.
Yeah.
But once we got past that, smooth sailing.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny because you talk about this. Sometimes the Steelers start slow for the season. They started a little bit slow for the game. I mean, the defense did their part early, then got put in a bad situation and kept them out of the touchdown zone. Had to make sure I got that in there. Shout out to Brian Anthony Davis. And things there was so many things that were far from perfect, but at the same time, there's so many things that were just close that you're like, oh my goodness, if they don't get that interception with Cam Hayward, what if they give up a touchdown there? Oh, what couple different things that went their way. That what if they didn't? But at the same time, the Steelers gave up that 6 points late that they probably wouldn't have otherwise if they weren't just saying, "Hey, run clock. We don't even care if you get in the end zone. It's going to take you a long time to run this." And
even though they scored that touchdown, that was truly when you play a prevent defense. What your prevent defense to do? We were only giving up, 5 to 6 yards of play really there. We were taking them all the way to third downs and they were converting. We were not giving up big chunks. We made them eat clock to get down and score that touchdown. And actually, I thought one of the nicest plays defensively was with 2 minutes and 2 seconds to go on 2nd and goal. We held to force them into 3rd and goal after the 2-minute warning.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's a good point. There's a lot of different things there. Well, before I roll into what we're going to take a little bit of time to talk about this, I know normally we'll spend more time on the game that's coming up, but it was like I said, 260 days since the Steelers have played. It just happened last night. It's just too much to talk about. But before we do that, I've got to bring up, because people did ask earlier in the live chat, what about the contest? What about the survivor pool? And that is, hey, Rich, why are you wearing that jersey?
I'm wearing my Marquise Pouncey jersey in defeat as I was eliminated in week 1.
Because it was the closest you were going to get to Marquise.
Along with one Jefferson Bartholomew Hartman, because we both picked the same team to win.
Yes, you did.
I should have known better. Yeah.
You went along with 76 other people that got knocked out because of the Colts.
Because of the Colts. I knew better than I should have known better than to pick the Colts, mainly because I've never, ever, ever, since Ben was drafted, trusted Phillip Rivers.
Yeah.
And should have known better than to trust him with my fate. However, Kyle and I had looked over the games and we decided the best two games to pick from was the Colts, Jags, and the Ravens, Browns. Mm-hmm. And Kyle said, well, he would keep the Ravens-Browns game because he wanted to go ahead and get that one out of the way. And he's like, and if the Ravens are going to win, the only other team I'd like to ever see them beat is the other team I really hate, which is the Browns.
There you go.
So Kyle in, me out.
Yeah. Well, the most common choice was the Buffalo Bills, and they did win. But we lost, my goodness. I think in all 44% of the entries, almost half. There's 4 leagues. There's 100 people in 3 of them and 55 in the last one. And the one league has 49, and that's the most. Oh, no, wait, 49 eliminated. Sorry. They had the 2 leagues have 57. So that's pretty good. Now, Shannon went with the exact opposite of my strategy. Shannon, you're still in it, and you picked
the Steelers.
See, there you go. You're like, hey, if you look at the schedule and you feel more confident about this game than any other, you go with it. So,
well, I'm superstitious.
Yeah.
And I feel I jinx them. We've done pick 'em leagues for years, and if they lose, it's because I'm picking them because, I have black and gold glasses. And so I said, well, if I get it out of the way this week, they win, then I don't have to worry about it anymore. I'm not going to jinx them.
I almost went Steelers.
But I couldn't do it because then if they lose that the first week, I'm mad because they lost, and I'm mad because they got knocked out.
That's why I had to go with my regular strategy. Same strategy I lose last year, which people roasted me for, but this is my strategy. Well, first of all, I'm the one giving away the football, so I don't really care if I win this. I don't have as much invested in it because if it's me and someone else left, then they win. But my strategy is, especially the first week, pick a team that you will be happy if they lose. So that way, if you are eliminated, you're at least happy that team lost. That's me. Yeah. So that's why I picked the Ravens this week, because if they lost, I would have been happy. And if they win, then I move on. So went ahead and did that one. Last year, this is where people roasted me. Last year, I picked the Patriots the first week because I said, I want to get knocked out of this. So that's what I was going to do. And because anytime I pick the Steelers, that's when I get nervous because I'm like, my wife she will testify that she roots so hard for the Steelers to win every single game, not because as much that she cares, but as much as she doesn't want to have to deal with me when they lose. So, because how I am, I'm short with the kids. I'm not happy. I'm just grouchy for the longest time. And she, she was very happy that the Steelers won. If the Steelers would have lost last night, she would have gone to bed early because she wouldn't want to have been around me. But she stayed up for a little while after the post game show so we could talk a little bit because she knew I'd be in a good mood. Real quick about this game coming up since we don't have a lot to say. But yeah, so that's it. There's 198 people left in the contest. If you're listening to this, we will update it on the Tuesday night show. There's also an article behindthesteelcurtain.com that comes out late on Tuesdays each week. Someone in there said that they couldn't find your knee-jerk reaction article, Rich. It's still on there. It's just as more articles come out, it gets pushed down.
Yep.
So you've got to scroll for it, but it's still there. So right now, this is your reminder. If you're listening to this podcast, you're still in the contest, go make your pick now, because the most common wrong pick we always get in week 2 is people forgetting to make their pick. Don't forget to make it. So real quick,
don't have to worry about that.
Real quick look at the Denver Broncos. Let's talk about the Steelers defense.
Okay.
What's the philosophy this week? Last week it was, don't let Saquon Barkley win this game. They focused on it. They did it. Is that the same approach against the Denver Broncos? I'm going to ask Rich first because we'll let Shannon dwell over it a little bit.
I'd like to see us. I thought Drew Lock looked shaky last night. I thought he looked like you could really fluster him. I would like to see us put a lot of pressure on him. I think we could force some turnovers.
Okay, so rather than say maybe there's not one person that we're just going to focus on, not let them beat us, that we're just going to say, this is something we can exploit. We're going to go get it.
Yeah.
Shannon, what do you think?
I watched the game last night, and I agree that Locke has a lot of talent, but that Judy, that kid he's great off the line. He's a tough cover. Of course, he dropped a couple big, important passes last night, bad moments, but he's going to be a tough cover. But I still think if we shut the running game down, looks like Lindsey might be out with a foot injury.
Looks like he probably will be this week.
And then if we can, limit Gordon and force the second and third and longs, we've got a much better pass rush than the Titans do. And I believe that we can pressure him, as Rich said, into some turnovers.
Yep. And,
not just interceptions, but fumbles as well, because he's kind of loose with the ball, which a lot of young quarterbacks are. But, I think that's the key, again, is limit the running game and set the defense up. It would be nice to have an early lead.
Yes.
To force their hand a little bit.
Yeah. Here's the thing. Melvin Gordon is now going to be the guy there in Denver. That I could see them taking a similar approach to say we're just not going to let him beat us. But I think it's more likely. I see more potential for Drew Lock to maybe do more than what they thought Daniel Jones could, although Daniel Jones did pretty well. But I'm not really sure with that. But see, Melvin Gordon ran much more efficiently than Derrick Henry, but he didn't have as many yards because Gordon was 78 yards on 15 rushes, so he averaged over 5. When Henry did go over 100 yards, but on 31 rushes, so he had twice as many carries as what Derrick Henry did. So it looked like Henry ran for more, but Gordon was more like a getting closer to what Bennie Snell was doing a little bit. But then Gordon, also had some receptions there too. So I don't know if this is a focus on shut one guy down or this is just a focus of let's just all around go after it. What about on offense? What do you think the Steelers are going to look to do? I'm going to answer real quick first. The first thing they got to do is figure out what in the world they're doing with the offensive line.
Yeah.
Because you got to hope you can get DeCastro back. If not, you're starting Dotson. Then you've got to worry about who's actually backing up at guard. They don't even have another guard on the practice squad. Is Wisniewski maybe going to be available, but would be better off in a reserve role where he could come in if he had to? But some people are like, well, you could always move Filer back to tackle. Well, who's going to play guard?
Right.
with the other guys, because you don't know about Wisniewski, you don't know about DeCastro. We'll find out more when they practice on Wednesday. But you've got to figure that out. There was a report that the Steelers were going to sign Gerald Hawkins. Then there was another report that said that report is not true yet. So we'll see what they're going to do. I think that's the number one focus of the offense right now is what they're going to do. I think it's going to be based on who they have on the line. Thoughts? Rich, we'll start with you.
Yeah. I imagine we're going to see Chooks at tackle. Really hoping DeCastro's back, but not counting on it.
Yeah.
I would expect we're going to see what we can do passing the ball a little more. If Chooks is out there at tackle, because that plays a little more to his strengths, might be able to actually give a slightly better pocket for Ben to pass in than we had the other night at times. Ben's going to need to spread it around. I'd really like to see us utilize the tight ends more in the passing game this week. Just because I think we can keep Denver off balance defensively, based just on our number of weapons, if we can spread the ball around. And similar to like what I thought Ben was doing in that 2-minute drill the other night. That's why I thought his 2-minute drill was so great, because he was just spreading the ball around to everybody. If we can get into a passing game where we're spreading the ball around to everybody and everybody's making plays, Denver's not going to know exactly what to do, or and then if we get that passing game going and then Denver's feeling like they got to get their pass rush going better, that actually probably opens things up better to run the ball. So I think our ability to run the ball against Denver is going to be influenced most by our ability to pass the ball against Denver.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things where it's the Steelers are just going to have to start doing what they do. What do you think, Shannon?
Well, I agree with Rich. I think that the passing, we're lucky that, I hate it Miller's hurt, but I'm glad he's out for the game, that we don't have to face him. And then Chubbs is coming back from the ACL injury, and he had some moments last night, but he's going to be on a snap count. So their two best pass rushers are not going to be there. So I think that invites the Steelers to open up the passing game. I think Ebron needs to be more of a factor. I think he'll have some favorable matchups. And they have so many weapons in those top four receivers that I think that they can, move the ball, set the tempo, get the lead, and then have more success with Snell or whoever running the ball.
Yeah. Yeah, like I said, my biggest concern is with that offensive line and what they're going to do there. If they can get that figured out, then I feel Ben has got some confidence, some legs under him. I was ready for the Steelers before that Chase Claypool catch. If they don't convert that third down, I was getting ready to say, "Come on, come out and run a no huddle for a drive and just let Ben do his thing." And that's what the Steelers need to go to if they can't get it going, because Ben out there calling the plays, doing the things that he does, that's going to be the best thing.
I'm going to bring up where'd it go?
Yeah, better go quick because we're running out of time.
I also agree with this, and I almost said this. Ryan Kellerman brings up Bush needs to lock up Fant. Fant is a big weapon for them offensively. If Bush can neutralize that tight end, that really opens up some other things for our defense.
Yeah. And which is funny because Fant is the player that the Broncos took the 20th pick that they got from the Steelers as they traded up for Bush with the 10th pick. So that's quite interesting. Yeah.
We're happy with Bush.
Yes. See, I wasn't big on Fant coming out of college. He had a lot of drops. So real quick, because we're over our time, but I'm going to say, Rich, you know what I always do every week. I know you probably haven't thought about it much. I don't give mine till Thursday. Do you want to give a prediction for this game, or are you not ready for that?
No, I'm okay. I'm going Steelers 28-17.
28-17. Shannon, do you feel confident in making a prediction, or are you just going to say you're still reveling in the win from last night?
I am still reveling in the win. So I'll have to hold off on making any predictions at the moment.
That's fine. Hey, make sure that you are checking it out on Thursdays when we do our staff picks for the entire league. Shannon's in on that. It's a nice little graphic that we have going. My goodness, Jeffrey Benedict has never done picking games before. First time he's ever done it. And through this site, this tally site that we use, he ended up being like the number one picks for everybody. It was pretty amazing. So thought that was pretty neat. Make sure that you all are tuning into the YouTube shows that we have, because tomorrow night there will be Know Your Enemy with Michael and Jeffrey. Thursday night will be the preview. Then Saturday is Steelers Brunch with Tony. Sunday you'll get a post-game show and not in the middle of the night. So, and then it'll be back with the Hangover Monday. But tons and tons and tons of audio-only shows. We've got the Let's Ride shows going Monday, Wednesday, Friday. You have Live Mike that was out today on Tuesday. You'll have My Stat Geek on Thursdays. You're also getting Touchdown Under. I haven't missed one yet from our two blokes from Australia. That those shows are great. They come out on Saturday mornings. We're also giving you some other small shows. We're giving you a Mike Tomlin recap that happened today from his press conference. Then you'll get an injury recap for the next 3 days with an injury report comes out. Lots of different things. Just make sure that you're going in and liking Behind the Steel Curtain and wherever you listen to podcasts. Also, make sure you're checking out the website, BehindTheSteelCurtain.com, one-stop shop for all your Pittsburgh Steelers needs. You'll see plenty of my stuff on there, Shannon's stuff on there, and make sure you're checking in about 30 minutes after the game or less for Rich's knee-jerk reactions. Shannon, thanks for joining us tonight. Anything you want to say here before we head out?
Hey, I appreciate the invite. Had a great time, and go Steelers.
All right, that's where we go. Go Steelers. Rich, go Steelers.
Sunday. Can't wait.
Can't wait. Here we go. You know what? That's exciting. Let's get another one. Let's go. Let's start off the season 2-0. So thank you all for joining us tonight, and we will see you next time.